You just loaded up Snowrunner and you're ready to start a new game. You saw a bunch of awesome new mod trucks released. You know the spot to take them. Time to give them a go. Fire up the trusty console. Find the mods we're looking for. It's time to start a new game on my favorite mod map. When suddenly... So I took some time and put this video together to help you all understand what's going on and why consoles are just so limited on the amount of mods that you can use in a game session. The first thing we need to understand is that consoles and PCs are, in general terms, doing the same thing the same way. Now, one of the most obvious differences is the fact that a PC allows you to upgrade parts and increase system capacities, whereas console is limited really to what you can upgrade and generally only allows you to upgrade your storage memory capacity. This is where the confusion really starts for console players, and that's what we want to sort out with this one. So first of all, both consoles and PCs use two different kinds of memory. The first kind is your storage memory, which is generally a hard drive, an SSD, an M.2 drive. And then the other kind of memory is random access memory, or RAM, which I know all of you have heard of. What we want to do is sort out the difference. An easy way to think of your storage memory is to think of it as a library. Your library can hold a lot of books, but it's going to take you a while to find the specific book you want. You can't use all of them at the same time, so it's where you're going to keep all the ones you aren't using for safekeeping. Because let's be honest, none of us ever throw anything out, right? Your RAM, or random access memory, would be your book bag, which has a very limited capacity. Obviously, this bag's going to give you super quick access to your books, but you can't carry your whole library around with you. You're going to have to choose which books you want to use. This is the same as you hitting play on Snowrunner. Your console or PC will load all the game files from your storage memory, your library, into your RAM memory, your book bag, so you can head off on your adventure. The biggest problem with your book bag and console is that you can only carry so many books at a time. So when you change jobs or start a new program, you're going to need a different set of books. This means that you need to empty your bag and load it with a different set. You still have the other books, you just have to go and find them in the library when you need them again. It's a necessary evil, and as always, there's a tax on speed and convenience. Our tax is the fact that super fast RAM capacity is limited by technology so far, and it's nowhere near the size of a much slower storage. Now that we understand the difference between the two memories, we need to get a handle on how the systems actually use it when you play a game like Snowrunner. To keep it simple, both console and PC will have a CPU, which is a central processing unit, and they will also have a GPU, and both of them take care of certain tasks and work together to give you your game. The reason we're talking about CPUs and GPUs is that both of these units need access to super fast RAM to do their job. It's where all the game information comes from, so they need access. There are generally two ways you can put a GPU in your system. Option 1 is an all-in-one CPU-GPU chip, sometimes called an APU. Many lower-end PCs and consoles actually use this kind of multi-purpose chip. In an all-in-one chip, the two systems share your system RAM memory, which means that it's going to get split up between two different processes. So if you have 16 gigs of RAM, which is generally what a console has, it's going to get shared between both jobs. The true benefit of an all-in-one chip is that it takes up a lot less space, it saves a lot of power, and it costs a whole lot less. The real downfall of it is that there's only so much capacity you can pack onto that chip, and you can't upgrade the same way, although if it's in a PC, you can get a motherboard with a PCIe and add a graphics card. That gets us to option 2, a dedicated graphics card. This is a PC-only option and is one of the main reasons that we get so much extra mod capacity. A dedicated graphics card is a self-contained unit that has its own chip and RAM built into the card. This means a system with a dedicated GPU doesn't have to share the RAM with a CPU, which gives you significantly more capacity since there's no sharing between the two units. Really, the negatives is a much higher cost, much higher power usage, and you need space as the graphics cards get bigger. The other problem you run into with a console is that RAM isn't upgradable. The current gen consoles, as I said earlier, typically ship with 16 gigs of system RAM, which needs to be shared between the two setups. For context, my middle-of-the-road PC, I have 32 gigabytes of system RAM, which is dedicated to the CPU, and I have 12 gigabytes of built-in RAM on my dedicated graphics card, which is also called VRAM or video RAM. When you load Snowrunner up on your console, the base game's going to use, and I'm just throwing numbers out here for context, I don't actually know how much, but let's say 80% of your 16 gigabyte system RAM capacity, and it's shared between the CPU and the GPU. The same game loaded up on my PC is going to use the same amount of memory, but I have it split between two different units that have way higher sources. And that's the biggest difference. A PC can handle more mods. Every time you add a mod to your current game, you add another book into your bag. And the issue you run into with consoles is plainly that your bag is almost full after loading the game alone. Unfortunately, for console players, you can't just buy a bigger bag like we do with PC or more RAM. This also explains why a tweaked mod uses so much less RAM, because that mod is using a truck that is already in-game, loaded into the game, where when you're using a brand new mod, you're loading more stuff into the game, using up more RAM, and there's only so much left after the main game loads. Now I gotta say, there is a certain simplicity in the console gaming experience. I get it, knowing that most games, in quotes, work properly. You don't have to worry about specs and meeting certain specifications to play a game, and generally they're a little bit smaller and easier to house in and around your stuff. Honestly, consoles these days do some pretty incredible things with really seriously tight size and power restrictions for what they do. I think really the problem in the end is that they're currently made to run the games at hand, or vice versa. The games are made to use as much of the hardware as possible, and they don't really leave any extra because they're trying to get the most bang for the buck out of the unit. Really, I think at this point we can only hope that with mods being more accessible and more common on console these days, that the actual console developers start thinking of adding a little more capacity to handle the possibility of extra content. Or who knows, maybe they'll even go crazy and make RAM upgradable? I doubt it. Anyways, I hope this helped explain why console players have limitations that are built in, and some of them, like the PlayStation 5, is partially limited by Sony itself. In the end, there's not much we can do about it, but hopefully this at least helps you understand. Thanks for watching. Take it easy out there.